Okay. First thing on the docket. I am a 6 foot tall man. I have this gigantic binder. And as you can see, it's filled with Pokemon cards, and I keep them all organized, which normally isn't a problem, except I have all of these I need to add to the binder, which is going to take a very long time. Welcome back to Unlocking Unreal Engine. If you remember last time, we learned how to draw a line from our face 300 units forward, check and see if whatever we hit contains our interactable interface, and if it does, send in a message that says, hey, you have been attempted to be interacted with. Today we're going to learn the incredible power of variables. I know a lot of you know at a surface level what a variable is, but do you know the true power? First things first, let's go ahead and make the door a little bit more functionable like an actual door. I'm going to go ahead and open up the BP door system, and we're going to move things around just slightly. I'm going to take the interact request, and I'm going to put it up top. The reason I'm going to do that is because, to me, as a priority, it kind of makes sense to have it more towards the top. Then, underneath our open door, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to create a custom event, and this will just be closed door. I'm going to move a little bit fast here because we're kind of just going to be doing some copy-paste. I'm going to take the door, and I'm going to take the move component to. We're going to Control C, Control V to copy and paste. Bring it down here, and instead of having it the target relative location be 90, we're going to set this to 0, and we're going to compile and save. So now we have an open door and we have a closed door. However, now what we're going to do is we're going to create another custom event, and this is going to be toggle door, and this is where we're going to have to start exploring variables and why they're important. One of the most easy ones is a Boolean because it can only be one of two things, true or false. So on the left hand side, what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable, hit this little plus here, and I'm just going to name it open with a question mark. Then you just need to make sure this says Boolean. It should have a red little dot there. And on any chance it doesn't have a red dot here, like let's say it looks like that, a big grid, just right click on it and it should go back to being a simple dot. And now what we need to do is whenever we open the door, when it completes, we need to take open. So all I did was click and drag, and we need to set it. And we're going to set open to true whenever the door opens. And then we're going to hit set, and we're going to set it to false whenever it closes. Compile and save. If you look in the viewport, this is something to keep in mind, it's closed by default. So that means that this variable needs to be false by default. In order to change a variable, on the left-hand side, if you click it, as long as you've saved and compiled, on the right-hand side, you'll see the default value. Right now, there is no check, which means that it is indeed false. So now we can use that information to toggle the door. When I pull out open, instead of setting it, now we'll just get it. And you guys have used branches before. I'm going to hit B and click, and we'll get a branch. I'll plug in our execution pin. I'll plug in the condition, and then I'll right click the branch. I'll go to the node, comment, and say, is the door open? Question mark. We'll move this down just slightly. I want some space. So open, if it is open, then we want to close the door. And we know it's open because the Boolean's true. If it's closed, so open is false, then we need to open the door. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top here because our interact request is specifically opening the door. So we're going to delete that, and we're going to change it to toggle the door instead. So now whenever it receives an interact request, it will see if it's open because of the Boolean that we've created in setting. And then using the branch, it will either open or close the door. So we'll compile, save, we'll load up, and now we can open the door. And when it finishes, we can press F, and we can also close the door. However, variables are more powerful than even just that. We're going to stick with just the one variable now to show you how powerful this can be. We're going to use something called the construction script. So if you look here, there's something called the construction script. There should be a tab here for it. And you'll note that it's kind of like a function. It's got this nice purple starting event. And when the construction script happens instantly, whether it's in the editor or during runtime. So what I mean by that is when we press play to test, so if I went to the first person map and I pressed play, that initial frame where it's loaded is runtime. Like that's the start of runtime. So that's when begin play happens. I don't know if I've mentioned that. Begin play, do you remember what that is? If I hit P and click this node, it's usually here by default, event begin play. That's when that runs. However, the construction script runs even if it's in the editor. I'll show you what I mean. So let's go ahead and grab the open Boolean, pull it out and do a get. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna get a branch, we're gonna plug it in, we're gonna plug the open condition in. Then a little bit reverse of the toggle, because this happens in real time. So it's not waiting for the interaction event, it's happening in real time. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. If open is true, we actually wanna open the door. And if it's closed, or if it's false, we wanna close the door. And then on the left-hand side, on that variable, you see this little closed eyeball? It probably just kind of looks like a weird thing to you if you didn't realize it was an eyeball, but it's actually a closed eyeball. If you click it, that makes it public. What does public mean? Public basically means that this is something that can be changed by other sources. It doesn't have to be self-contained within the blueprint. And if that doesn't make sense, don't worry. You don't really need to know the complexities of that right now. Just simply understand that by making it public, we're going to go ahead and save and compile. Now when we come out here, you'll see in the default on the right hand side, open question mark is false, and we can change it. And because it's in the construction script, watch what happens. If I check this, the door opens. Now, why is this important? This is important because when you play games, not all doors are closed by default and not all doors are open by default. So this lets us kind of control which doors are going to be open and which doors are going to be closed without having to make separate blueprints per door. Now let me show you something. Let's go ahead and close the door again. If I go in here and I remove the construction script, so I'm just going to undo this execution pin, this won't happen anymore. It's the construction script that's specifically letting us edit things in the editor in real time. Now, important note, the construction script is a very, very powerful tool. It's good for setting up environments, like making sure doors are open, making sure lights are on or off. However, you don't want to use the construction script for everything. The construction script does have to run while you're editing the game. So you can imagine how if you have 1 million doors, 1 million lights, 1 million everything, it's going to add up really fast. If you don't notice a performance dip, don't worry too much. And honestly, you can get away with using the construction script on quite a bit. For example, I use it on all my doors and all my lights because it just helps me make the environment and I can edit in real time. But I still think it's worth adding the disclaimer. It is adding a performance hit technically, but it's very minor, and the construction script is here for you to use it on things like doors, so don't worry. Let's continue to see the power of variables, and we're even going to stick to the same type for now. We're going to add a new Boolean, and I'm going to name it locked. Oops, hold on. I want to rename it so it has the question mark at the end, like there. Locked, compile and save. And now we're going to leave the construction script the same, but we're going to go back to the event graph. And now what we need to do is we need to see if our door is locked. So we're going to head up to the interaction request. I'm going to unplug the execution pin, and you hold Alt and click just in case you didn't know. We're going to drag locked out. We're going to do a get. We're going to do a branch by holding B, clicking on the event graph, plug in the condition and the branch. Right click the branch. Is the door locked? Question mark. Now, if the door is not locked, we can run a false to the toggle door, right? Because it isn't locked, we can run the toggle door. However, if it is locked, if we don't plug anything in, it won't do anything. Now, what we could do is pull out, and we could do play sound at location, okay? Now, this is one way to let the player know that they have indeed met a locked door. What you would do is you'd go get a sound asset, which we'll go get in a moment. And then you see it needs a location. And the reason we're going to supply a location is because it sounds a lot better whenever the noise plays from a place in 3D space. Like, have you ever been playing a game and you're like, oh, that's to my right. Oh, that's to my left. That's because it's actually playing within 3D space. So in order to do that, we use place sound at location. However, luckily, this is a very simple thing to do. I'm going to get the SM door, which is, remember, our static mesh for the door. I'm going to pull out of it and just hit get world location. Oh, not that one. You don't want that one. Get world location. You want specifically get world location, not whatever this is. And then we can use the world location as where to play the sound. So we're like, hey, is the door locked? If it is, we're going to play a sound, which we don't have yet. And it's going to be like, hey, this is locked. However, if it isn't, we'll go ahead and toggle the door. I'm going to compile and save, and then I'm going to show you guys a great place to get sounds. This website is called freesound.org. I get a lot of my sound effects here, which there's a lot of places to go. You can also go to itch.io, for example, and this is mostly games and stuff. But if you look on the left-hand side, there is indeed game assets, and then you can start sorting by like sound effects, for example. And there's tons of free stuff. There's tons of stuff you can pay for. But I'm going to use free sound for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to search locked. We'll just start there. Now, this is where you have to start understanding what Creative Commons is. Creative Commons tells you essentially what you have to do in order to use the sound. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I do think it's important that you go and you learn about these. There's CC 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are the most common. However, the one we're looking for is 0, so I guess I'm wrong. There's 5. We want 0. On the left hand side, however, if you look on license, there is a CC0, Creative Commons 0. What this means is that you can use the sound effect and you don't have to apply anything. You don't have to give a shout out to the author. You don't have to pay for anything. You can use it in commercial products, personal products. It doesn't matter. CC0 means it is public use. Now, if you wanted to, like you got it from a specific author and they're just giving CC0 stuff because they're a good person and you want to give them attribution, absolutely, I highly recommend it. But the point is you don't have to. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to go ahead and click on different sounds and see what they sound like. So that wouldn't be bad. And then if you wanted to, which we're not going to right now because it's too advanced, but you could like have like the door handle flick when you're doing that. You know what I mean? But let's look for more. Door auto locking. It just sounds like a clock. I don't know if that would be portrayed as a lock very well. Door lock 2. That's just someone with keys, which makes sense. Locked door. Ooh, that could be good, but it also does kind of sound like a door closing. You have to remember that, yes, this is probably a locked door. This is probably someone messing with a door and it's locked, but you're only hearing the audio, and you have to remember, sometimes when you hear audio, it's not portrayed as what it is. Like this is a locked door, right? Kind of sounds like a door closing though, doesn't it? I mean, I could definitely see it being one. I think what we're going to do though is we're going to go do the locked box, and I'm going to use this specific audio here. And that'll be good enough. I do think it would be better, it would be portrayed to the player better if they handled it this, but we're not going to do that right now. So I've picked one. It is CC0, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the title here. You will need to make an account. They're free. And I'm going to just hit download sound. This software is known as Audacity. It is a free audio editing software, very powerful for being free as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in that audio we just downloaded, and we needed this part right here. Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this, I'm going to press delete, and then one more time. Yep. And I'll take this and I'll press delete as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. So it's all selected. And again, see how it is touching the top and touching the bottom? That's technically the audio peaking, and you want to avoid that. However, in this case, you can't hear it that much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to effect. I'm going to go to volume and compression, and then we're going to normalize it. So when you normalize something, what you're saying is, I want you to bring the low peaks a little bit up, and I want you to take the high peaks and bring them a little bit down. And what you're doing is you're choosing where you want it to be. Like what is the highest peak you want this to be? If you press 0, it's going to bring it to the top and the bottom. If you bring it to like -1, as you can see I had here by default, what it's going to do is it's going to leave a little bit of space between the top and the bottom, which will make it a little bit more quiet, but it'll take off a little bit of that edge that the audio has when it starts to peak. So with -1 selected, I'm going to hit apply, and you'll notice there will be a gap. Boop. So now you've got that gap here. And what that's going to do is help try to prevent any of the clipping that's happening. See, and you probably won't notice too big of a difference. Not too much of a difference, but it is a little bit easier on your ears, isn't it? Especially if you've got a headset on. So now we have our little audio selection here. I'm going to hit File. I'm going to go to Export Audio. We'll just do on my computer. I'm going to do an MP3. All this is fine. I'm going to do an MP3. By the way, you don't have to delete all the other audio. You can actually just select this audio. However, I did delete it. But if you did just select the audio, just so you know, you can actually just change this to current selection, which as you can see, mine's set to. And then you can keep all the rest of the audio there. This is good if one audio sample has like multiple things you want to use from it. Instead of deleting all of it and then having to re-import it, deleting it all, re-importing it, you can just grab the parts you want, only render out that selection, grab another part, do it again. But in my case, I just wanted this, so we're good. So we got locked door MP3, that's a good spot, and I will export. It should literally be almost instant. I'm gonna open up Unreal Engine again, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit Control Space. We're gonna navigate to wherever you want. I like to go to Content specifically, right click, create a new folder. I like to do Imported. In the imported, I like to make another folder called CC0. So that way I know it's imported and this is specifically public domain. I don't got to mess with it. However, if I do have like CC4, so like CC 4.0 or whatever, or just 4, I will put stuff in there and then I will change my naming convention. So I think this is important actually. I'm going to show you what I do. So let me import. This is just a locked door, but we're going to pretend it is the CC4. Instead of locked door, what I would do is click it, press F2, and I would do locked door underscore, and then the username of the person that I need to attribute in the credits. However, that's how I do it. You do not have to do it that way. To me, that just makes sense because it helps you keep things organized. You can find the name, you're good to go. But I'm going to go ahead and move this over to CC0 instead. And then within CC0, I'll create a new folder and I'm going to do sounds, pull that into here. And trust me, it seems like I'm making folder after folder after folder. But as someone that has done this for a long time, it's because I know of the other things that could be happening that's going to cause one folder to be flooded when it should be divided into multiple to make things easier. However, this is not what we need. This isn't the final step. In fact, I accidentally imported the non-edited version. Let me grab the edited one. Let me click it. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click it. I'm going to right click and we need something called a queue. So we're going to create a queue. And I'm just gonna leave it like this, locked door underscore queue works for me. Control Shift S, save all. And the reason you want a queue is because inside the queue, you can add things that make the sound change slightly. So for example, we have the wave player locked door. I'm gonna undo the execution pin by alt clicking. And instead of going straight into the output, what we're going to do is we're going to do something called modulate. So grab you a modulator and then plug that into the output. I'm going to grab it, I'll press Q just so it's straight. And what the modulator does is if you click it on the left-hand side, you'll see that it pitches it up or down, and then also changes the volume up or down. And what this does is it kind of makes a small amount of sounds sound a little bit more like different sounds, so that way it's not the same exact noise every single time. It'll pitch it up slightly, it'll pitch it down slightly, and yes, you'll still be able to hear it's the same sound, but it does add some variation. And then I'm gonna hit save. So Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just take our queue. We can literally drag it and drop it on selected asset and hit compile and save. So let's talk about what we were doing. We set up interaction request and we were looking at the power of Booleans. Because of Booleans, we now know we can set it to open or we can set it to closed. And we can then toggle the door because we know if it's open or closed. But then not only that, we can also make it locked. So with this set up, let's go back to the first person map. And what I'm going to do is, first off, notice locked isn't in the default. It's not there. That's because we didn't make it public. So go down here to the bottom left, make it public, compile and save. And now we should have a locked over here on the right. I'm going to set this to locked. And now, because of how we have it set up, the door is closed and it's locked. So it will not open. Instead, it will play a noise at the door's location. It won't open. It's locked. And the last thing we're going to do for this episode is look at one more powerful use for the Boolean. And that is, I'll show you what it's doing first. Let's make this not locked. We'll keep it closed and we'll hit play. Right now, if the player goes up and they spam the interact button, watch what happens. The door it's just slower and slower. The more you spam it, the slower it's gonna get. Now, it doesn't look like it's getting slower, but trust me, it's getting slower and slower and slower. Now, why is that happening? If we take a look at the code, it's a very literal thing that's happening. It's taking its current location, and then it's saying, oh, I need to rotate myself to 90 from my current location over 2 seconds. So every time we press F, it's taking its current location, calculating how long it'll take to get to 90 on the rotation over 2 seconds, and then adjusting its speed. So by spamming, what we're doing is we're slowing it down, because every little bit it gets further, the slower it has to go for it to take 2 full seconds to get from where it's at to 90. So we have a very simple solution using a Boolean. Let's go ahead and create a new one. And I'm going to name this in progress with a question mark. We'll compile and save. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab the move component to an SM door. I'm going to move it all to the right. I'm going to undo the execution pin. We're going to grab the in progress. We're going to do a get. I'm going to hit B and click for a branch. We're going to plug it in. We're going to right click it and we're going to say, is the door currently in progress? Now, if it is in progress, we don't want it to do anything because it's currently doing something. However, if it is not in progress, we can move forward. So if false, then we take in progress and we set it to true. So what that's going to do is it's going to say, is it in progress? No. Well, now it is. So don't accept any more inputs. Plug the execution pin in. And I want to show you something about move component too that you might not have noticed. Notice that the execution pin on the move component 2 is a completed, okay? So until this completes, it will never go further. That is why when I spam, open is never being set because it's never making it to open, which is why it's never trying to close. It just keeps trying to open. So when you fully complete, set yourself to open and then set the in progress to false. And now let's move the closed door over and do basically the exact same thing. I'm going to grab in progress, I'm going to grab the branch, and I'm going to grab the set. We're going to copy, and we're going to paste it. We're going to undo the execution pin. Oh, I'm going to grab these again, plug the execution pin in, because it's basically the same logic. Plug it into the move component too. And then also copy and paste the setting in progress to false. So now if I compile and save, if we go to the door and I spam F, watch what happens. Nothing. I broke it. So I've actually ran the logic in my head repeatedly and it should be working. So we're going to actually do a brief how do you debug section. It's probably something simple. I probably like misclicked something, but regardless, let's go through the steps. So we know that the first thing that should happen is we should try to interact with the door. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull out a toggle door. We're going to type in print string, and we're going to we're going to click on this, and we're going to change this to toggle door. Then we're going to copy and paste it, and instead we're going to make it say locked. So the reason we're doing this is because whenever we interact with the door, it is either going to get a true or a false. So therefore we know it will either print that it's toggling the door, or it's going to print that it's locking the door, or that the door is locked. And I'll show you what I mean. Let's compile and save, and we'll hit play. Now I'm going to go up to the door, and I'm going to press F. And at the top left, as you can see, it's attempting to toggle the door. That message is popping up because we're printing the string. So we know that the logic is making it to toggle door. So now we're going to delete both of these, and we're going to move down to toggle door. And what we're going to do is now we're going to add them down here. Let's print this. We're going to say close, copy paste, and oh, not pen. I must have misclicked. Open. We'll hit compile and save. So is it trying to open the door? It is indeed attempting to open the door. So we will delete these. So we know that the logic makes sense so far. However, why is it that it is now failing? Just in case, out of this true, we're going to print a string that says, sorry, in progress. And then after the set of in progress, I'm going to print another string that says, opening door, and then I'll move this over slightly so we can plug the execution pin in, and we'll hit compile and save. So now we should be able to follow the logic all the way to here, and it says sorry, in progress, and it's not ever letting us through. Interesting. So now we need to figure out, why would it be saying that it's in progress? It's saying that right now, whenever we go up to the door and we try to open it, in progress is returning a true. If you look when we have it selected, on the right hand side, the default value is false. So we're going to leave these two print strings here because we found where the problem is happening. And what we're going to do is figure out any reason it could be returning that in progress is true. We'll go to the construction script, but of course this is simply just opening or closing the door, so it wouldn't be here. I gotta tell you, this doesn't make any sense at all. So this is where I'm at. I'm wondering if the construction script is triggering in progress, and then this move component to is never completing, so it's never not in progress. That's just a theory, a game theory. Let's unplug the construction script, hit compile and save. And we'll see if that's what's going on, because it doesn't make sense currently. The construction script is the issue. Are you seeing how I was able to deduce that it could be the construction script by using the print strings? Because we knew that somehow the variable was being set to true, but we didn't understand why. Nothing should have been triggering it, except the construction script was running open and close door. So instead of running these, what we're going to do instead is we're just going to get the SM door, and we're going to replicate the move component to with a set instead. So for example, if we want to open the door, we want to set the relative location on the Z to 90. So we're going to get the door, and we're going to set relative location, or rather, no. Relative rotation to 90 on the Z. So if the door open, yes. Okay, then your rotation needs to be 90 on the Z. Let's copy and paste it. Plug in your door to the target, and then the Z is 0 if it's closed. So what this is going to do is essentially the exact same thing, but it's not going to run logic that changes any variables. Does that make sense? This essentially avoids us having to change a variable. And I'm glad we found a bug, and I want to teach you guys how to debug. So I hope this is making sense. So now we shouldn't have the issue. If we go to here and I hit open, closed, open, closed, we don't get the nice animation, but it doesn't really matter because we're in the editor and we're just choosing whether the door is open or not. So that works out. And then when I hit play, it shouldn't be running the logic, which means it should now start working appropriately. Thank you guys so much for following this series. If you guys are enjoying it, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I love every single one of you. And if you'd like to help support this series, there is a Patreon down below. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a good one.
I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess, and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints, money, clout, and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy. Think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me.